Welcome to What Was He Thinking? My name is A.B. Bracewell. Today I'm going to be your personal tour guide through a man's psyche. Take this journey as we explore why a man thinks the way he thinks, why a man acts the way he acts, and why a man feels the way he feels. No questions off limits, and no topics too hard. By the end of the show, you'll have a better insight and a better understanding of who we are as men. This season on What Was He Thinking? We're going to be talking about sex. And not any old regular type of sex. We're going to be focusing on the sexual education of Black men in America. We're going to be looking into the thoughts about sex, our behaviors towards sex, our habits, and the way that Black men learn about sex. We're going to be focusing on how we develop our feelings and our emotions towards sex, and how that impacts the way we approach relationships and deal with love. So without further ado, I'm going to jump right into the conversation. Once my brothers introduce themselves real quickly, we can start with you, Wap.
My name is Wap. I'm a Black father of two. I'm in the IT profession, working on computers and stuff like that, for a company out in King of Prussia. And I'm just glad to be here, brother. Appreciate it.
My name is Charles Hill. I am in the human service field as a behavior specialist. And I also wrote a book a couple years back called Black Technology 101.
Nice.
Dope. Well, my name is Edward Moore. I'm a speaker, a life coach, and an author. What I specialize in is helping people get unstuck and take action. And so I too have written a book called No Excuses When Failure is No Longer an Option. And, I'm extremely grateful to be here today.
Okay. Let me thank you guys for being a part of the broadcast, first of all. So I'm just going to straight off the bat. I'm gonna ask the question: what taught you about sex?
I think, growing up in the neighborhood, your influence around like your friends, early in age, you're taught sexuality, when as a young kid, catch a girl, get a girl. Then the talks about being a virgin, a virgin, and then just could be cousins, older cousins, and family members, and this is what you should do. So you're guided by, well, at least on my end, by the environment. Your influence and your friends and people. And as you start getting older, and wait, you didn't have sex yet. So it's like it's kind of sort of in a way like pressured at times, you know what I mean? Pressured on young people. So it's like, I'll just say environment influences and family structure.
Mine was pretty much the same thing. Growing up in the 80s, there wasn't a lot of conversations from like detailed conversations about sex from parents and everything. So, we had the health class course and all of that stuff. But then you had, your cousins and your friends where they give you the homie conversations, you know what I mean? So it was that for me. I have three uncles. My dad wasn't around. So, they would throw their jokes and, their quotes and everything, like quips and everything like that in there. But that was basically it. I mean, I was kind of a stay to myself in the house kind of guy. So, I liked girls and everything like that, of course. But sex wasn't really like on my mind too much until maybe about 16, 17. You know what I mean? Is when I really, really started like really thinking about it. Um, but yeah, I would say, environment, family and friends for the most part, uncles, all the male figures, you know what I mean? Even male figures, you don't see in a while. You see them at a cookout or whatever. Like, hey, you got a girlfriend, you know what I mean? Like those kind of conversations. But that was mainly it for me.
For me, my experience was very similar. I learned a lot about sex through my environment, through my peers, and you know, it was an over sexualized environment. You know, in my environment, guys were having sex really, really early, and as a result, with the peer pressure and you know, the male role conditioning, you know, we were taught you wasn't a man if you wasn't having sex, and so a lot from the big homies, this is what you need to be doing. You know, it was a lot of pressure around that, and then I hung with guys like 3 to 4 years older than me, and so you can imagine where they were in relation to where I was, and so a lot of minds came from, again, with not having a father around. A lot of minds came from my peers in my environment as well.
Yeah. I think we all probably have some similar experiences. Of course, when the first time I was introduced to sex, not actually partaking in an act, but just seeing it, it probably was like porn.
Yeah,
You
Right.
know, porn had big brother friends watching it. I walk in the room and it's playing, and I'm like, oh, what's this? We
Right.
all sitting there just watching it for hours at a time. And, you know, I can't remember how young I was, but I know I was young. I definitely wasn't a teenager yet. So
yeah,
we all have similar exposure
Right.
experiences, but the first time we learned or was exposed to it. So my next question is what were the lessons that you learned from them first foundational times that you was exposed to it or taught about it? What were some of the things you picked up, some of the lessons that were actually taught to you by people directly or indirectly?
Uh, that's
Anybody can
that's
answer.
that's a good question. Like I said, my early education was just my uncle's quips and jokes and my friends. Oh, you ain't even kissed a girl yet. Blah 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 blah. You know, stuff like that. But as far as I mean, I wasn't like, for me, I wasn't like a super sexualized kid. Even when I started learning about it, you know, 15, 16, 17, I was like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? But it wasn't my interest at the time. Like I was playing basketball, trying to get out of school. I had a sick grandmom. So it was, you know, I had other things going on. So that wasn't really like high on my priority list. So for me, it just, you know, it was a little different. I didn't really learn too much that I carried over.
Yeah. So when with the uncles and the cousins that would say, "Hey, you haven't kissed a girl so much," I mean, such things like that. What was your interpretation of that? When they'll make jokes like that, like what
I mean,
what did you take from that? Like,
I knew they were joking because it was always, you know, it was, oh, you ain't kissed a girl. Ha ha. What's wrong with you? Why you ain't kissed a girl yet? And then I'd just be like, oh, I'm worried about school. And then it would stop. Because I think, you know, they would realize me worrying about school was more important than me worrying about girls at the time. So it kind of shut it down. I mean, you know, your cousins gonna keep going because, you know, they're in the same grades as you and everything like that. But it just, you know, just taught to me, like, you know, if you have a girlfriend, you know, eventually you're going to kiss that girlfriend. I never, you know, thought about anything past that because, like I said, you know, I knew what sex was. I knew what was going on with sex. But, you know, even at that age, I think we can all agree, you know, we was nervous. So we wasn't really, I was looking, when it happened, I was like, all right, when it happens, it happens. But I'm not going to like chase after it or anything like that. So,
okay.
you know, it just kind of, you know, told me that, you know, when you get a girlfriend, you're supposed to kiss your girlfriend or whatever like that. But
Okay. So Ed and Charles, what about your lessons? Were they similar, or did you actually learn some lessons, or did it impact you in a certain way? What were some of those lessons you learned early on?
my lessons was a little different, man. You know, the way that I got taught in the environment that I got taught was you know, almost, you know, women were objects to be used for our pleasure, to be a player. You know, I got taught to be a player. You have to have multiple women. One is too close to none. All these type of beliefs that got pushed on me as a young guy, and as you can imagine, getting these beliefs pushed on me as a young person from the people that I'm looking up to, and them telling me that if you don't act in this kind of way, you're not a real man, had a profound effect on how I viewed life, how I viewed myself, how I viewed women. And with no father around or very few positive figures to counteract this negativity that I was being taught, I accepted it as truth. And I went about living my life in that kind of way. And as a result, it's taken years of real intentional work to deprogram myself from that kind of thinking. Because as I went all up through adolescence, through my teenage years, to my young adult life, and even up into my late 20s, I subscribed to that kind of thinking, right? It wasn't until I had some experiences and began to understand how I was impacting other people as a result of my beliefs that I was carrying out on them that I decided that I wanted to become different. But I think a lot of young Black men were socialized in that kind of way, you know?
I'll say my experience was similar to Ed's. Some lessons that I had. I have to go back to my mother. I remember, as we were coming up, she's the one that supplied the protection, the condoms. Her lesson was, I can't stop y'all from act, but just be safe. Lessons were also too, basically not to go out and produce children early before you have your together. So that's a lesson that stuck with me. And I also go back down, maybe it's like junior high, where the discussion with, the friends and community was you have your main girl and you have your other side,
Mhm.
you know, and, just a philosophy that was, I guess, put in place that, well, I'll say in my life, it had for a lot of years and, older, things are different.
Facts.
Yeah, I would have to say for me, I think mine was similar to yours, Ed, and similar to yours, Charles. And of course, a little bit of WAPs also. But we definitely grew up in an environment where you was pushed to look to women as a sexual objects, just by the way you was conditioned. We weren't groomed or we weren't taught to even develop friendships with women.
Right.
It was all about, having sex, it was all about uh, getting your desires met sexually. I mean, whether it was through the music, whether it was through my friends, whether it was through the things I watched on TV, being constantly bombarded with those different images. But my mind was always on just the sexual, satisfying my sexual desires, and not developing relationship, not developing intimacy, not developing love. It definitely, those things didn't come into play until I became older. And I could say probably well into my, I don't even, maybe well into my 30s. I mean, spent a lot of my time just playing and running around and trying to get my desires fulfilled, and wasn't interested in really developing relationships in that way. So yeah, I see, being that, so we have some similar lessons being learned. um, what do you think is the common lesson for Black men or Black boys being taught today when it comes to sex?
I believe it's the same thing that we've been taught.
Common
Unless they
lesson.
have, unless they have somebody
Yeah.
in their life, this gentleman that are on this broadcast teaching them anything differently. And it's, and I've worked with Black men for the last 20 years, and I have 5 sons of my own, right? Or Black men. God appointed me to raise Black kings. But my experience is they have to hear the information from somebody that they deem credible, that's been there, that's been on the other side of the fence, to tell them, hey man, that's not cool.
Mm-hmm.
I want to share my experience with you. Look at all the wreckage and the carnage that I caused in my life. And when I was your age, man, I thought it was cool. I thought I was being fly. I thought I was having the girls like I was told I was supposed to be. But, you got to have empathy. Those are other human beings that you're using simply for your own sexual gratification with no interest in them. Now I'm sure every last one of y'all on this broadcast can relate to it. Have you ever been really, really pursuing a girl and you really liked her, and as soon as you had sex with her, you had that moment of clarity afterwards? Like, I don't even really like
Right,
you like that, right? Y'all laughing.
I wear
What I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm talking about. But that comes from, dealing with people that we don't have genuine interest in. It might have been physical. Look, y'all laughing.
Right.
But, it might have been physical. She might have been sexy. She might have been attractive. But you ain't got to try to know her on the intimate level. You ain't got to try to know her mind or anything of the nature. And so, imagine that being your sister or your daughter. Now you want to feel differently about it, but we out here doing these same things with women. So I think it's important, man, for men like ourselves, man, that they're gonna respect, that they're gonna have a certain amount of you know what I'm trying to say, admiration for. That we begin to have these conversations, not in a square kind of way, because they're not going to receive that, but some real hard conversations, and let them know I stand on this today.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we can only do our part, because you can only imagine if it's just 4 of us guys trying to teach young men how to do something different. But when he goes outside, he has his whole community. He has his whole family. He has everybody that he knows teaching him something the complete opposite. And the people that he's with every day are teaching and doing something complete opposite. So it's definitely a struggle, and it's definitely a fight to get young men or even older men to see something different. But I think it's a fight worth having. It's definitely a fight worth having.
Can I add 2 things to that really quickly, and I'll be real brief, right? When you look at our personal experiences in our lives, when it may be our job to plant the seed, and it may be somebody else's job to water it, right? And you never know at what point that seed may take root. So imagine if we never plant the seed. For me, some of the seeds that was planted didn't make sense until I got 30 years old, right? And so that seed may be planted and it may lay dormant that entire time, but one day it may click. So there still is a responsibility in there. And then there's a saying that says it's not by promotion, but attraction. And what that means is that, a lot of people was going to be more attracted to how I live my life than what I'm saying out of my mouth, right? And so if I could plant a seed and then model it and still be cool and still be fly, I stand a chance that maybe 1 or 2 of them hearing it, even if it's later on down the line, And so, yeah, imagine if nobody planted a seed with us, where we'd be right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Setting that example.
Wow. Any thoughts? What's your thoughts on any of that? Wow.
Everything that Ed says, spot on. You know what I mean? Me having 2 boys and us being black men and having kids, period. You know what I mean? Planting them seeds, even if we're not the ones, like he said, to nurture those seeds, but planting them, putting that foundation in them. You know what I mean? So that they know the difference between, goofy stuff and what's really going on is highly important. Adam, I got Lil, and Lil is at that age right now. Well, he's past that age, going by how we grew up. He's 19 now. I know he has his interest in girls and everything. I'm not gonna front. Having that conversation with him was real awkward, because like I said, I never had nobody had that conversation with me. But I know it's a conversation that had to be had. So I sat him down and we had a conversation. You know what I mean? I told him the facts. You know what I mean? Sex is good. Sex feels great. At the end of the day, you got to understand the consequences of sex. It's not like that young lady's gonna get her emotions involved. You may get your emotions involved. is going to be deeper than just that one night. You need to understand that things can occur afterwards. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be good in the moment, but you got to think about what's going to happen afterwards. So,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Talking to him about safe sex and all of that good stuff as well. But just really having a conversation with, like, not in the textbooks, man. Like, oh, when, you know, sexual relations is when a man loves a woman. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it should be, but we in a different time. You know what I mean? So I had to explain that to him and explain, you know, the attraction part of it and all of that. You know what I mean? Like, don't take advantage of no girl. You got a sister, you got a mom. You know what I mean? Imagine how it would be if somebody did that to them. You'd be ready to fight. You'd be calling me, Dad, somebody did this to my sister. You got to think about that too when you with these young ladies. Don't just be out here all willy nilly. You know what I'm saying? Doing whatever you want to do. It's not that kind of party.
I dropped small seeds into my son's head now. He's hitting that teenage
Right.
stage. He's only 12, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, I definitely have a conversation with him on his level.
Mm-hmm.
You know, nothing too detailed,
Right.
nothing explicit, but
Right.
something that he can understand.
Right.
So I want to ask, what was the turning point for you in your life that you said, all right, I need to stop going in this certain direction? What these people, what these guys taught me growing up,
Mm-hmm.
what I learned from media was all of these things were wrong, and I need to make a left right here and go into the direction of building relationships, building intimacy, building friendship. What was that turning point for you guys that made you, you know, switch your behaviors or switch the way you looked at sex and thought about sex?
For me, when Lil Mom told me she was pregnant, at the time I was 19, she was 18, about to graduate high school. I was working and everything like that, and it clicked. Like, hey, you can't be playing around. You know what I mean? Not only do you have this girl, but now this girl has a child inside of her. You know, and I had to be real with myself. Like, you can't be your dad. You can't be out here haphazardly and let the neighborhood raise this child like the neighborhood basically raised you. You know what I mean? And it's, you know, it's don't get me wrong, I got some good stuff from the hood. I got some bad stuff from the hood. I had a couple of people that, you know, gave me a couple of jewels that, you know, wasn't sex related, but they gave me a couple of jewels. But for me, that was my turning point. Now I'm responsible not just for myself, but for this baby. I got to do right by this baby because, you know, not too many did right by me. So for me, that was my turning point.
Well, I don't really know. I don't know. As far as a turning point, yeah, I don't really know. Let me say this: I am
Maybe I should ask,
better
have
than I
you
was
turned?
in my years. So, huh?
I said, maybe I should ask, have you turned that corner?
So, have I? Let's
We're being transparent, brother. All
let's
right.
say this: I am not the man that I was in my younger years, but
He ain't through
I
with you
don't
yet.
know. I'm more or less like in an idle. Nah, nah, nah. I don't think I'm we out of it. I'll say that.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, I'll say that.
That's how I understand it.
Hey, man, I respect the honesty, brother.
Yeah.
Hey, that's what we here for.
You know, I have relationships and it's just I'm in the idle. I do like my freedom.
Mm,
And being a single man, I have the right
mm,
to choose when I want to. But then, you know, a lot of times or times now, I don't have to do anything.
mm-hmm.
Hey, brother, I agree. And I'm with you. I,
Preaching right there.
I appreciate the
Preaching right
honesty. That's what I mean. All right? What about you, Ed?
The biggest catalyst for change is impact and consequences, right? And I have experienced both. I've experienced a lot of consequences as a result of the decisions I've made. I've experienced a lot of impact. A lot of people think when you do stuff, you only impact other people, but you got to realize you impact yourself as well.
Right.
And one of the things that I started realizing is the impact. The decisions I make, they impact everybody connected to me, right? Whether it's my kids, whether it's my partner, whether it's whoever it is. And starting to see the impact that I was having on other people, man, as well as myself, made me have to have some come to Jesus moments. Like, bro, you need to do something different, man. Mm-hmm. You know, I talked to my brother because we had this little pact, almost like players for life, right? And one day I had a conversation with him several years back. I'm like, bro, we've been doing this since we was in high school. Like, how are we finna keep doing this? Like, we gonna be 40, 50 years old, still doing the same thing. Hey, man, I got a new one. You want to check her out? Like, so for me, man, it was just, you know, realizing the impact that I had, starting to have empathy for other people, man, and just really starting to look at life differently, man. Now, I'm not going to say, I'm going to be honest, like the brother Charles, man, I'm not going to say that I still don't struggle with parts of my programming, that I got to fight every day. And I'm not going to say that there is some times that I might not make a decision based off that program. But I try to live my life in a way today, more of the person that I've become than the person I was. But you brothers know, like I know, sometimes the old you and the new you will be at war, and the old you might have a little more ammo because you've been that person longer. Right? So,
that's a good way to put that.
Yeah.
That's a real good way to put that.
Yeah, man. Listen, I think I'm on the same page with all you guys. And what you said about the impact, and like that is real. I think for me, my changing moment probably was when I had my son. Like I was running around like I was crazy throughout my 20s, really early 30s. But when I had my son at 32, I realized, okay, it's real. And I'm about to have somebody that's going to be looking up to me that I'm responsible for. So I can't, I have to set a good example for him. I have to set a good example. And it didn't happen overnight. Right. You know, it took some time, but I think that was the point where I even started to think that way. Before then, like I wasn't even thinking nothing about relationships and intimacy and friendship and respecting a woman for who she was as a person. I was still thinking like I was 21 at the age of 30. So there's a real conversation, brother. Real conversation. Yeah. So before we disconnect, any last words? Any you want to tell the people where they can contact you, where they can find your books, all that good stuff?
Well, my contact is just Facebook, Instagram, Charles Hill, and right now my book is only on Amazon, called Black Technology 101, and like again, it's on Amazon.
Yeah, you can find me on every social media outlet at Edward L. Moore. You could also find my book. My website is edwardlmoore.com. You can also find my book there as well.
Okay, great. So the conversation is not over, just this section. Please stay tuned. Next, we're going to have the ladies to join us and put us in the hot seats and give their opinions and give their questions on what they heard. But thank you for tuning in. This is What Was He Thinking? Have a good night.